Peace, family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I want to do is I want to talk to my chosen ones about how everything you went through that didn't feel good was not considered trauma. This trauma one has been going around everywhere. It's like everybody wants to become the victim, be a victim, blame themselves as another victim, however many victims you can put on it, you know what I mean? But this whole trauma thing has been getting overly and excessively used. And it kind of puts you in a weaker, vulnerable state when you constantly are expressing some of the trials and tribulations you went through as trauma. You know, before they started exposing that word trauma, a lot of it was just considered our hardships, and it made us and it built us to the characters we are because of how we overcame those obstacles, you know. So understanding that if we wouldn't have had experienced what we experienced, we wouldn't be as solid as the way we are today. Our communication wouldn't be as effective as it is today. Our vibrations wouldn't even vibe out to the universe the same way. So like, we were never using that word trauma until this age of information where it's out there excessively, and everybody has been putting themselves in the victim position, or you got other people telling you that you've been a victim, you know. And most, like, I know for me when I was younger and like going through shit, like once I was like of age, not when I was younger, because some shit when we get young at a certain age we not in control over, but as you get older to a certain age you are. And it's like, if I chose to put myself around certain beings or be in certain locations, then I had to expect the vibrations that came with being in those spaces. So I always knew to take a percentage of it and put it on myself, regardless if I started it or not, whatever the big outcome of the situation was. But I could say that I didn't have to put myself around those beings. I could say I didn't have to put myself in them physical locations or places, you know. So for me, when I used to put myself in those places or spaces before being aligned the way I am now, it was different, because I used to be like, more so it is what it is. I'm going in here with the best intentions, but if anything vibrates the other way, you know what I'm saying, it is what it is. Like, I be shaking in all areas, you know. I live for the light, but I know how to operate in that dark light too. And most of us do, being in this space. And I know what time it is. It's airplane time. We're gonna let them pass. But the more that we use that word trauma to express some of the things we went through as teenagers, you know, we can start all the way down from little all the way up to where we are now. We don't even have to find a middle starting point. You know what I mean? We all are knowledgeable and aware enough to know that some shit was out of our control. When you're living under, you know, your caretaker's provisions, then you aren't powerful enough or brave enough to kind of just run away in your own space, because most of us didn't just run away and go somewhere else. We thugged it out through that space until we was able to get out. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like doing a jail sentence, you know what I mean? Like, most of us was like, we're going to ride this out with our parents or whoever our caretakers are. As soon as we get of age, then we're going to spend. You know what I mean? So whether that age was 16 for you or 18 or 19 for others, you know what I'm saying? But most of us wasn't just like at 8, 9, 10 years old, like we just take off out the house and gone, you know. We figured out a way to process it. So we should be able to take that same approach from a much more deeper standpoint and a much more wiser being in this realm, and understand that, like, I know for me, if I didn't go through half of this shit I went through, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. You know what I mean? My route would have been completely different. I might have would have got where I'm at sooner. I may have gotten here way later, you know, but my route would have been different. So if I looked at like some of the trials that I went through that really woke me the fuck up and really start making me become aware and being in the reality, but understanding that, you know, we are these spiritual beings within as well too. Like, I wouldn't have snapped out of it as fast, you know, because I'm a solutionist and I like to, everything is a percentage, so I like to react. I'm a reactionary, but I do respond. It's all a percentage scale. So in my spirit world, I understand how I'm weighing out the percentages, but always expressing them outwardly can be a little tricky, especially when everybody doesn't speak the same English language. You know what I mean? Like, we all speak English, but we all don't speak the same English language. That's why you can go into the courtroom and you basically need a lawyer as an interpreter to speak the court language. You know what I mean? Just like you have to have a nurse or somebody who knows doctor language express and, you know, interpret the doctor language for you. So it's the same way out here. The English language is really tricky, and we definitely use it in multiple avenues, healthy and unhealthy, you know. But don't look at your situations as traumas. Like, you don't put the same strength and emphasis on what you went through when you call it a trauma, you know, instead of calling it a trial or obstacle. Like, even when I first started experiencing like witchy shit from the opposite sex, because when you born a man, you always experience it for men. If you're born a female, you always gonna experience it for female. So we all understood that. Like, most girls be like, yeah, I don't fuck with other girls, they crazy. Most men be like, oh, nah, you can't trust other niggas, blah, blah, blah. That's the process. But when we start having to engage and entangle, that's when light bulbs started clicking and turning on. And it created a huge shift. You know, it was a much needed shift, but it was like every blow that was thrown meant to hurt. It was like activating something, like punching through a glass to hit an emergency push button. So like every time I thought I was going through something weird and it was going to be too hard, and life is hard. When I say hard in my world, I mean overly exaggerated hard, because I'm already used to everything on the hardest level. So for me, like, that punch through the glass to hit that push button, it activated something immediately, and it was like it starts setting up memory markers, like alerts and alarms, and like all kind of sensory systems, like in the spiritual realm and all kind of shit. Like, it was like my team was making me aware of what was up, and then I also was ready to start protecting myself, because I've always been a defensive being first. In all my sports, defense first. Basketball, crazy at getting the steals. Football, we got cornerback, free safety, strong safety, you know what I mean? All the defensive positions. I played offensive too, but defensive was first, you know? Defense is more like a protection, so it just naturally, you are given more power when you are put in the position to protect. When you naturally put in them positions to protect, you know what I mean? So I just like to emphasize, like, don't think of yourself lesser or weaker when you know the trials that you overcame, when you know the spaces and the things that you had to go into in the spiritual realm so that you can overcome these ones out here in the physical realm. You got to make sure that you put in some respect on your own work and your own trials. But I ain't want to run it up too long, you know what I mean? Don't make yourself a victim. Your traumas is really your trials that got you to be the being that you are, that's putting you in the position where you need to go. Tap in anything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.